Good morning, Blues. Let me give my delayed match reaction to Everton's last preseason friendly against OSC Lille yesterday at Hill Dickinson Stadium. Apologies, I had to go to my mom's birthday dinner after the match, so couldn't record yesterday. But let me do that now. So overall impressions of the match. I think it was overall a very positive preseason match, maybe the second best after Newcastle in terms of the performance. The result, in my opinion, very clearly does not reflect this match. I think Everton were definitely the better side yesterday, especially in the first half or the first 60 minutes. And I think it was another good preseason match. I think it was the type of match I hoped it would be, because I felt Everton took the momentum from the Newcastle game, the patterns that proved to be potentially very, very good during the Newcastle game. These were, I think, repeated in the Lille game. And I think it was a positive performance that feels to me reliable. I think we saw things in the Newcastle game and in the Lille game that I think can definitely be repeated in a more competitive environment. We can play like that also in the Premier League. So what did I like about that game? I think the success of that game, it is down to that midfield. That midfield once again delivered as a unit a very good performance. Today, I think against Lille, the standout performer was Armstrong. I think yesterday against Lille, the standout performer from this midfield clearly was Hackney. Had a very good game, and I think he was also given his flowers after the match by being interviewed, kind of I think that was a sign of recognition also from the club that he played well. Okay, maybe because he is a new player and was his first home match, but I felt it was fitting that he was interviewed and given a bit of media attention there. Very nice. So he played very, very well, but again, they played well as a unit. This midfield three, Hackney, Armstrong, Keane and Dewsbury-Hall, they seemingly find it so easy to progress the ball. It feels so easy for this Everton side with that midfield to bring the ball forward. We had so many actions in the opponent's final third. Both wingers had a good game, Ndiaye and Dibling, because they were fed so many balls from midfield with space to run in. Compare that game. How many touches did Barry have in that first half compared to so many matches during the Premier League last season? We get to see a Barry that actually is a very good footballer. I mean, look at that pass for Armstrong in the second half. That's like prime midfielder type of through ball there. So the upside of that midfield was again so obvious. We can progress the ball so nicely, seemingly effortlessly, constantly put Lille on the back foot. And paradoxically, if we play like that, it also means we've been once again more safe, because Lille had much less of the ball than we did, and we played again most of the half in their half, not in ours. So that was again very nice to see. Everton had a very nice balance. The whole overall balance of the game was heavily favored towards Everton, and I think it's down to this midfield. My personal conclusion, I think you can already guess it, is that we should try this midfield against Palace. This midfield still, there are some question marks surrounding that midfield. Of course, it is a very offensive midfield. And of course, in the second half, you could see some times or some moments there where you could see the potential downside of that midfield. At some point, Lille were able to stretch the game a lot, and there seems to be a lot of space. There's definitely a danger with that midfield, which is the downside to a positive. What I noticed more in this game, that both Dewsbury-Hall and Armstrong, they were really looking also to run in behind. That's how the first goal came. Dewsbury-Hall from midfield, running in behind, very good through ball from Mykolenko, has to be said, and then he won the penalty. And Armstrong also tried this kind of run several times, which that gives us even another dimension. They don't pass the ball just on the ground, but they open also the ball over the top. That worked also against Newcastle. I remember like when Ndiaye had his good chance before the penalty for the second goal. Also, Armstrong made a deep run, ball over the top, and then we were in. Like, this midfield also has that element too, which is very nice. But I think it requires very good coordination. Because if both Armstrong and Dewsbury-Hall go for the deep run, and then the ball is lost in the middle, well, then you're wide open. You're absolutely wide open. And then you only have Hackney and the back four to defend an opponent's counter-attack. That is potentially dangerous. So there is that risk. But I think against Crystal Palace at home, it is a risk worth taking. I've seen people online say, well, in the future then, to counter that problem, we will put in Garner and Norgard. But then well, then you have a completely different midfield. If you put in Garner and Norgard, you don't have that offensive midfield anymore. Yeah, you may be more solid, but you have none of the joy you have going forward. You can't play a midfield with that much attacking power and be solid as well. You can't have the cake and eat it, right? If you swap in Norgard for Hackney, or Garner for Hackney, or Garner for Armstrong, you will have a different midfield. You won't have so much joy on the ball, I guarantee you. So I think it's a risk, but I think it's a risk worth taking, because this midfield has given us two of the best midfield performances we've seen in months. And they came against quality opposition, yes, in a preseason friendly, but it were definitely relatively competitive preseason games. It is the first game of the season against an opponent at home that is definitely beatable on paper. We should try that, in my opinion. Like, the upside of trying that is very, very high. Then another point related to that midfield. As much as I'm a fan of Aznou, and I think in isolation he is the better left back going forward than Mykolenko, for this specific lineup, playing Mykolenko actually isn't a bad idea. I think yesterday overall he also didn't have a bad game. What you see with him in this lineup is the drop-off in quality on the ball is so noticeable. When he gets the ball, you can see how much longer he takes on the ball and how much less options he always has available, because he's just not as technically gifted as them. But as he's helpful to cover a little bit the defensive deficiencies of that midfield. I think it was very noticeable tactically that Mykolenko started on the defensive side much more inside. He covered a little bit for that midfield by staying very much inside. So Everton purposefully left the right flank a little bit open in the first half, which allowed Lille to play a couple of diagonal balls to Ethan Mbappé, the brother of Kylian. But Mykolenko was able to leave Mbappé open to cover in the middle and then defend him one-on-one, because he can be a good defender. For some reason didn't show it in preseason up until then. But yesterday he defended those one-on-ones pretty well. And I think Mykolenko is one of the reasons that allows that midfield that allows Everton to get away with that midfield. So he's not a bad option there. A noticeable one though is Brennan Johnson. He came on and I think he had a mixed bag. Overall, for a first performance, just a couple days after being signed, it was pretty good. Sorry, started to rain heavily all of a sudden. And we got a very realistic first glimpse of Brennan Johnson, upside and downside. Upside, wow, he's fast and he gets into good positions. How many in his half an hour, how many good scoring chances did he already have? The first one came from a deep ball and unfortunately his first touch let him down, which I'm sure will be a song we'll sing for many seasons if he stays with Everton. First touch lets him down. But minutes later, he's already in again at the box and has a very good shot, forces a good save from the keeper. And then we saw the typical Brennan Johnson goal. Unfortunately, this time didn't lead to a goal. Pass from the side of the box and he's there for a tap-in at the center of the box. Unfortunately, misses his kick. Yeah, I think you already saw what Brennan Johnson can do. If he executes those, that he can definitely score some good goals. So he can be a very good X factor from the bench, or he can be a good option to start if we play a direct game. But by no means did that performance, for me, mean that he should be in the starting 11 straight away. It was nice to see the difference of profiles between Dibling and Johnson. They played the same position and they interpret them completely different. Like, look how much deeper Dibling received the balls, what he did with the ball, right? Cutting inside, trying to do a one-on-one with the defender, trying some passes, shots from distance, and Johnson direct, trying to get in behind, not interested in even receiving the ball much deeper. And that variety can be a very good weapon. Maybe let's then move on to individual player performances. Who were, to me, the most outstanding players for Everton yesterday? The two outstanding players to me were Ndiaye and Hackney. And then I put also in the very good performance bracket also Tyler Dibling. He played well. So Ndiaye, outstanding in that first half. Everything went through him in the final third. He played maturely, and I loved how he fed Dibling many good balls that were like the dream for a winger, into his feet, able to attack the defenders with speed. But he himself also was very bright. Good link up with Barry there. Buried his penalty, had some shots, looked extremely lively and very dangerous. Excellent performance from Ndiaye. Yeah, he's back, and undoubtedly he's the winger that will have to play. I think he's definitely Everton's best player overall. He will be in for Palace, and Everton will be successful with Iliman Ndiaye on the side. Then Hackney, like I said, to me, the best, most composed midfielder yesterday. Everything, he tried those things before, but they didn't always come off. Had a couple of misplaced passes in the games before, but yesterday he played the same game, but maybe with 10% more confidence, and seemingly everything he tried yesterday worked. And he's such a positive, bright midfielder. Again, he was played as the deepest option, but yesterday he didn't make those mistakes. So then him as a deep option looks nice. I still have my questions if we should play him as the deepest lying midfielder there. But Moyes seems to like him more there than Armstrong. Yesterday it worked, question mark, but yeah, yesterday he had a fantastic performance from that position. Excellent passing game, involved in the attack. He was like the link between defense and attack. On the defensive side, also very positive, able to sniff out a couple of Lille passing combos in the middle. Like I said, he's smart, has a good spatial awareness. He reads what the opponent teams is trying to do. Did that very well there. And then Tyler Dibling. I think he played extremely well yesterday, especially after the first 10-15 minutes. He had those couple moments where he cut inside and had a very nice quick release shot. Quicker release than Uli Hoeneß from his imprisonment during his tax time. Like, very nice quick shot, but he was also able to beat his man on the outside several times. Once he just beat him and ran past him, then he showed that he can also put in a decent cross with his right. Yeah, excellent. He looks bright, confident, and you can now definitely see what he's capable of. I still feel, though, there are like at least 10-15% more to his game. I was thinking about that. If I would be his personal coach, I think I would emphasize drills that force Dibling to take decisions quickly. To me, he still looks like he's a little bit slightly overthinking it. The first 15 minutes I wrote down, be proactive. Don't let defenders dictate what you do. Because the first moves he had in that game, they were almost forced by the defense. The defense invited him to take them on, and then he actually took them on well and beat them. But it didn't come from his own initiative. And then I think in the 20th minute, it was more like he was in charge. He told the defender, okay, you react to what I do because I come at you with pace. That's what I want to see from him. They commit to one thing and then execute that with full conviction. You have the talent. You're better than most people on there on paper. You have the ability. You can trust your gut instinct. If this is what your gut tells you to do, go for it. Don't overthink it. So as a coach, I would force drills upon him that force him to take a decision in quick time. I myself, as a teacher, taught languages for some time, and there were some students who were like overthinkers. I could tell they always tried to give the best grammatically correct response. And I told them, yes, that is on paper, that's fine, but in a natural conversation, it's better you speak spontaneously and naturally than you try to go for the perfect answer. So with these students, I sometimes put in little drills where I force them to answer in whatever 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I put a stopwatch next to them. And I think I would do something like that with Dibling if I was a coach. Force him like 2 seconds, and either you go inside or outside. You go for a dribbling or you go for a cross. Don't take too long. You have the technique, you can execute at a higher pace than most. Commit to that, and I think we will see a lot of joy. Similar thing to what I said about Tyreek George, who also can be hesitant, but we saw against Newcastle, when he commits, when he's fully confident and just trusts his instincts, wow, what a player he can be. And I think we can even see a brighter version of Dibling than what we've seen already, but very promising. So then let me give, after that game, my winger rating as well. I have a ranking for the wingers now. So Ndiaye is the lock, and now it's a very tight competition for the second spot on the wing, because you can play Ndiaye on the left and on the right without too much differences. He looked a little bit brighter yesterday on the left wing, so you could be tempted to put him there and say that's his natural position. But I think last season he also showed similar potential from the right. So I would put in Ndiaye, and then I would rank currently number 2. It goes to Tyreek George, only slightly, because against overall in preseason and especially against Newcastle, he had more of a standout performance than Dibling. Then in 3, it's Tyler Dibling for me after this preseason, and then Johnson currently is number 4, but he has all the chances to also jump up in the rankings. And like I said in my midfield video, we should be a tactically flexible Everton. So there are many scenarios where Johnson on the right is a very good idea. And Johnson isn't behind because he's been bad, but simply because I've seen more from the others. I think based on their preseason, they deserve currently to be a little bit higher in that ranking. They worked hard in preseason and showed a good side to their game. I think that should be rewarded. Then let me mention some players who had not standout performance, but I still thought had a good performance. On the right, again, as a right back, Merlin Röhl. I told you, I think he currently, in the current setup, he is our best right back option. He is definitely better there than Jake O'Brien, and he's also better there than Patterson. Because overall, Merlin Röhl is a much better player, better footballer than both of them, and he still has the athleticism to play a defensive game. He hasn't got the natural positioning, but he has that one sprint where the Lille defender thought he's through and then Merlin puts on the burners. Yeah, he is a very serviceable right back. And going forward, you can see what upside he brings compared to O'Brien, because he's a much better footballer, more composed on the ball. Again, he had a good game, and I think he will start against Palace, and deservedly so. As long as he is happy with that, I'm happy to play him there, as long as Everton don't have an alternative right back there. I thought the centre-back partnership for the first 60 minutes looked good. Tarkowski played pretty good again, with Branthwaite, who looked also excellent yesterday. Tarkowski with Branthwaite I feel much more comfortable about. I have my question marks around him if he plays with Keane, but if he plays with Branthwaite, I think Tarkowski is still a very solid centre-back. Of course, it was also nice to see Pickford back in goal. Didn't have too much to do though, but it was nice to see him back commanding the team. So he will be in against Palace now for sure. So then finally, let me move on beyond the Lille game. Let me give my overall assessment of the preseason. I think that was one of the best preseasons I can remember on all fronts, because I think from whoever put together that preseason schedule for Everton did a good job. I thought it was a very nice mix of games overall. I thought the Germany away trip was a good idea. For English people, it's not too difficult to go to Germany. The games aren't expensive. The stadiums are full. And for an away day, I think, going to my country is a good idea. Please, more of them. And it allows me also to see Everton in person in an easier way. So that is definitely welcome. And I thought the matches were always on the right level. Dundee to start, maybe on paper the easiest opponent there, also led to a 4-0 victory to boost some confidence. And then with each game, I think the level of competition got a little bit higher. And we finished off against Stuttgart, Newcastle and Lille. So 3 quality opponents that give you a good measure where you are. We didn't play games that are completely meaningless because the opponent is so weak. So I think the preseason schedule was nice, and the preseason played out the way I hoped it would. Because I said before the preseason, I want Everton to take preseason more seriously this time. I want them to play competitive games, use it as an opportunity to showcase and our young players, give them minutes, give them time to adjust to professional football for Everton. And overall, that is exactly what happened. This time preseason wasn't just a glorified training session, wasn't just a fitness check, but it was actually, we used it as an opportunity to try out formations and see what we have. And thanks to this preseason, we can now go into the Crystal Palace game and feel confident that, wow, we have a midfield there that can really take control of a game, can dominate the ball, and we see patterns there. We feel much more confident about our young players. Imagine at the end of last season, who would have thought Harrison Armstrong, Tyler Dibling, Tyreek George, Merlin Röhl are valid options for the starting 11? Almost no one. We had question marks about Hayden Hackney. as successful as he was at Middlesbrough, we were like, do we really need another midfielder? So the preseason, in my opinion, on the whole, gave you everything you would have hoped for. Some good matches there, confidence boosting matches against Newcastle and also against Lille. So we can go in for once with a bit of momentum. I think actually as fans we can feel in a low key, we can feel a little bit positive about this Everton. We can look forward to the season. We have even the fact that we have some players we haven't seen is a positive thing. And we don't rely on new transfers or missing players to come in and save us because we're a disaster going into the season. We're already looking pretty good. I think we're more ready than many other Premier League teams, and we have potentially already players under contract coming back and potentially 1 or 2 transfers left. I mean, we have to get a right back, right? Right? We have to get a right back. So we'll get a right back and who knows, maybe another loan. Let's see what happens. But I think the preseason was a success. We go into the season feeling positive. I think players also have shown their market value or maybe slightly increased their market value. Very, very positive. So what was the overall outcome? I think we had 2 losses against Stoke and Stuttgart. Then we lost, then we drew against Bolton and Lille. And we won against Dundee, Hamburg and Newcastle. So would that be 11 points out of 6 or 7 matches? So yeah, not a bad outcome there. By far the worst game came against Stoke. But again, what formation played there, right? I think that was the game where we had Tarkowski, Keane and Iroegbunam in front of them. So let me then give you who are, in my opinion, the biggest preseason winners. The biggest 2 winners, or the biggest 3 winners, clearly 4, are Tiano Barry, Hayden Hackney, Merlin Röhl and Harrison Armstrong. Those 4 have had overall an excellent preseason. Especially Barry played brilliant throughout. Armstrong, I think, played brilliant throughout. Röhl played brilliant throughout. Hackney had some performances where I wasn't 100% sure, but excellent preseason overall, all of them. Then we have in the same bracket, Tyreek George, also excellent preseason. And then we have another winner from preseason is Dibling. Much better, much improved. Definitely shown like why we bought him. The potential, he was able to show the 40 million player potential. And I wouldn't be shocked if he starts for Everton even next week. I would still favor George, but if Dibling plays, I'm also feeling good. Another winner is Aznou. He came on and looked confident and looked like he's at least as much of a viable option on the left as Mykolenko. Is he the go-to solution that we feel 100% sure about? Probably not, but he deserves more minutes than he was given last season. And if Everton plays a more defensive midfield, for example, then I think he's definitely should be the left back instead of Mykolenko, because he has shown much more ability on the ball, much more ability to contribute to the team offensively. So Aznou, one of the winners of preseason for sure. Not a winner, but someone to give us a reminder of what he can do is Charlie Alcaraz, I felt. Had some good games mixed in there. Then let me mention the few, I think, who were more like the losers of this preseason. Then would be number 1 to me would be Beto. He clearly lost the striker battle against Barry. Didn't have one game where he really stood out. I think Barry won every single game in the striker battle. I think going forward, Beto has to be the player on the bench, and I personally would be open to sell him. If we can replace Beto with another striker late in the window, that's something I would personally do. He's a good lad and he can help this team in a direct match plan, but based on preseason, he wasn't able to show the value he can have for this Everton side. Another loser, not like he's a loser, but compared to the winners who didn't have a good preseason, is Tim Iroegbunam. I think he showed that out of this midfield, he's, in my opinion, lowest in the picking order, because he just lacks the ability on the ball. He's a good ball winner, but there's always 2 sides. If you put Tim Iroegbunam in, you need him to also contribute offensively. Otherwise, you're one down in the midfield. You can't just have a player who does one thing, wins balls for you. Every player has to play both ways, and he unfortunately is so limited with the ball at his feet going forward. And Everton now wants to play more with the ball, wants to play a more controlled game. So I think in that regard, for the new style of Everton, Tim Iroegbunam came out as someone that probably doesn't fit that style. So I'm still very keen also that Everton sell him. I think we can use the money. He has a good market value and he can help other more direct teams. But for this Everton side, I think his time might be up. If we keep him though, okay, there are scenarios where I can see him help, but mainly to me as a substitute, not as a regular starter. So Iroegbunam and Beto as losers. Mykolenko overall redeemed him slightly towards the end of preseason, but especially up until Stuttgart, he looked like he was never a left back that contributed offensively, but also this time he looked also shaky on the defensive side. His place was before preseason more like a lock, but now with Aznou, who played quite well, I think Mykolenko's place is a little bit in danger there. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. I think Michael Keane, unfortunately, in preseason looked more like majority of his career at Everton Michael Keane. Not someone that I feel very confident to have in the starting 11, especially not with Tarkowski. So maybe let me make that point there. The Tarkowski-Keane partnership, that proves to be a little bit of a liability there. Everton should try to avoid playing those two together. That leaves me with another player who's been neither a winner nor a loser. But maybe if you would have to rank him more on the loser side would be Jake O'Brien. Not because he played particularly bad, but because it looks like we didn't really try many formations with him as a centre-back. And when he played right-back, he reminded us why we want a right-back. So Jake O'Brien's place in Everton's starting lineup is a little bit in danger. And then overall that leaves questions about his career with Everton. I hope he's still the long-term partnership I want to see at centre-back is O'Brien and Branthwaite, a younger, more athletic version. But we've given Tarkowski the captaincy, so it feels like probably O'Brien is the one that will be sacrificed from the starting 11 now. So for him personally, that's a loss this preseason. Hopefully the season develops in a way that O'Brien and Branthwaite ends up being our regular centre-back partnership. That would set us much better for the future. But yeah, that would be everything from my preseason review. Stay tuned. I think throughout next week I will do a season preview then. Let me know what you think about the Lille game, but let me know also overall who you thought were the standout players from the preseason. What are the main trends that stood out to you in preseason? What do you think will be translatable into the Premier League? Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully better weather than we have here in Berlin. See you soon. Adios.